You want to stop holding back and finally go all in on the work you know you came here to do. You want the spark back, the hunger back, and the confidence to give your dream another honest chance. But every time you get close, one question pulls you backward. What if I try again and fail again? Most people believe they will overcome this fear by wanting success more, working harder, becoming more confident. But that can actually make the fear worse, because the more you need one result to prove that you are enough, the more terrifying the result becomes. After more than 10 years as an entrepreneur, 11 years of doing deep inner work and coaching more than 50 clients, I have learned that people are rarely afraid of failure alone. They're afraid of what failure might make them believe about themselves. In this video, I'm going to show you why that fear kept me productive in the wrong direction for almost an entire year. How to detach your identity from the outcome, and the decision you can make within the next 24 hours to delete fear's authority over your future. Because the answer is not to stop caring. It is to give your best and release the verdict. I'm Rogelio Diaz, and I want to thank you for watching today's video. This first part of the video is called The Verdict Trap. Now, how do you know you're in the verdict trap? Well, you care deeply about the dream, because it matters so much that every action begins feeling heavier. You put so much pressure on yourself. It feels overwhelming. It feels like there's so much urgency, but it's affecting you in a negative way. For example, say you have to hit publish on a video. Maybe publishing becomes a test of whether your voice matters. There's so much meaning attached to this small task. Maybe selling becomes a test of whether you have value. Maybe starting a business becomes a test of whether you are capable. One failed attempt begins feeling like a prediction of your entire future. You think you're only afraid of the video underperforming, the offer being rejected, the business failing, losing money, starting over, all the practical shit. But underneath that failed result is the verdict that you are truly afraid of, which is, I am not enough. I am not qualified. I wasted my life. My dream was unrealistic. Everyone who doubted me was right. Maybe I was never meant for this. The event is painful, but the verdict is what makes it terrifying. Failure can give you information, but the verdict, it attacks your identity. Fear controls you when one result is carrying the responsibility of proving who you are. See, bro, failure has nothing to do with your worth. You're more than a task. You're more than an outcome that didn't go how you planned it. What's really happening is that there's a belief that you're a failure underneath the action, and that's why it has so much meaning. But in reality, it has nothing to do with your identity or your true worth, or that you're a failure. It's crazy how the mind makes all this stuff up. It's a limiting story on repeat. And I didn't understand how deeply I was trapped in that until I spent almost an entire year working hard while quietly avoiding the work I felt called to do. See, bro, there was a point in my life where I knew that coaching, creating content, speaking, and helping people heal, what was standing between them and their dream, were connected to my purpose. That mission still mattered to me deeply, but previous disappointment made fully returning to it feel emotionally dangerous. I know how painful it would feel to give everything again and not receive the outcome I hoped for. Failed so many times. I broke down so many times. I disappointed myself so many times. I can't tell you how many failed launches I've had, how many plans went to shit because they just didn't fall through how I hoped they would. And because of all that, for almost an entire year, I tried to do something else. I focus on sales, UGC, which is user-generated content where brands pay you to create content for them, and other opportunities. I wasn't doing nothing. I was working. I was learning, creating, improving my communication, and developing valuable skills. On the outside, I looked adaptable, responsible, and productive, right? Looking back, those opportunities were still not mistakes. They gave me experience and abilities that still serve me. But part of me was also using those paths as a safer place to put my ambition. They allowed me to remain busy without completely risking the dream that I had in my heart. If sales didn't work, it wouldn't be disappointing. I'm not so attached to it. It's not a part of my identity. It was okay. It was right if that didn't work out. If UGC didn't work, I could change direction again. Same thing. But if I fully returned to my mission and failed, I feared that it would say something much deeper about me. Maybe you can relate, bro. Sometimes we distract ourselves with other opportunities that are completely off our path. My girlfriend, recently we were talking about this, and her thing was she loves music. She always comes back to music. It's been a dream of hers to be an artist since she was a kid. And she distracts herself with all of these other things. And recently, the bigger distraction has been the podcast. But she's still good at it. She still knows how to speak on camera. She can create an amazing podcast. She's had results doing affiliate marketing on there, and she knows what she's doing with it. But Music has her heart. It has her soul. It brings life into her. It makes her feel alive. And she even admitted it, that doing the podcast felt more safe. It felt more secure. That's what we do. We try to find something that's safe, like getting a job, but we make something that's supposed to be temporary eternal. And that's the problem. But going after other things that aren't really in alignment with our purpose is just another way to avoid failure. It's another way to distract ourselves from what we truly want to do, because there's a reason you keep coming back to that one thing. And again, at that time, if I returned back to coaching, to helping people heal, to inspiring people, I feared that it might have confirmed that I wasn't qualified, that my voice didn't matter, or that the dream had never been real. See, bro, I wasn't afraid of working hard. I had already proven that I could work. I was afraid of giving everything to my purpose and using that outcome as proof of whether I was enough. You see, there's something called the Puritan work ethic. And what this means is that you don't see a lot of value in yourself, but you see so much value in the work that you do, the actions that you take, everything external. So if you don't work, if you don't produce at a massive level or work yourself to death, then that must mean you're not valuable, because you're only valuable when you produce, when you're doing something. And that's a trap, bro. Why aren't you valuable without the action? When you can see that you already have worth without doing the fucking thing, you lead off a whole different energy. You know how powerful you become when you already know you're valuable? A lot of times we keep trying to prove how strong we are, how worthy we are, how great we are. And you have all of that in you already. Now I want to share this. Fear didn't make me completely inactive. It made me active in emotionally safer directions. Staying busy helped me avoid admitting that I was still afraid to give the dream another real chance. Movement became a substitute for alignment. I was progressing in certain areas while remaining disconnected from the mission I truly wanted. Fear of failure didn't make me stop working, bro. It convinced me to work hard on everything except the thing I truly wanted. I was trying everything under the sun to avoid my purpose, to avoid what I actually wanted to do, because I wasn't where I wanted to be, because I felt behind, because I felt like I always fell short. And again, that pain of failing, I didn't want to feel that anymore. But you get to a point where life is about stamina. And it's about how long you can keep going, how much you can take, how much you can believe when you're really in the mud of life. But back to the story. Eventually, I had to admit that the calling hadn't disappeared. The fire was still there beneath the fear. No success in an adjacent lane could fully replace the fulfillment of doing what I believed I came here to do. I returned before I felt completely confident, bro. I didn't wait for the fear to disappear. I decided that the fear could be present, but it could no longer choose my direction. That's when I realized attachment doesn't mean caring less about the dream. It means caring deeply without making one outcome responsible for your identity. You're going to fail a lot. I said this in other videos. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to fuck it up. You're going to fuck up a cup of coffee doing this stuff, man. But when you want to build something that's yours, that shit's going to have to be earned. It's going to be a lot of trials, a lot of tribulations. You're going to have to keep going while you're hurting. Even as you do the inner work required, there's still going to be things to deal with. That's why a lot of people give up, bro. It ain't an easy path to walk. If you know you have greatness in you, don't you dare give up. You got to keep going, but don't let those failures be the reason you sign yourself off. Be the reason you don't make it to your vision, to your dream, that you don't help people, that you don't build something greater than yourself. You regret it. Now I want to go deeper into detachment. I like to say, give your best and release the verdict. You see, detachment doesn't mean becoming careless, giving weak effort, pretending the dream doesn't matter, abandoning responsibility, ignoring feedback, quitting when something becomes uncomfortable. Detachment means give the work your best effort, remain committed to the mission, study the result honestly, change the strategy when necessary, release the demand that one attempt must work, refuse to let the outcome determine your worth, continue without turning every disappointment into an identity crisis. Because bro, if you create content, publish to serve the person who needs the message. Don't demand that the views prove that your voice matters. You're letting external shit dictate your worth. And in all reality, only you can. Funny how we try to externalize so many things to validate limiting or bad beliefs that we have about ourselves. Or if you're selling, make the offer confidently, bro. It's okay if you get rejected. When I was in sales, I got rejected left and right, but I still closed. But I knew it's part of the game. That's how it goes. You can't take it personal because you can't let one person's response determine whether you have value. You can't let a couple doors closing on you determine if you're worth something. We all get the door closed on us. We all don't get a seat at the table. And honestly, it's better that way because you get to Go create your own opportunities. Go through your own doors. Create your own table. Also, if you're building a business, test a strategy and learn from the market. Don't take one successful attempt. Proof that you can't build anything. If you're pursuing your purpose, remain loyal to the mission without becoming attached to one route, one opportunity, or one timeline. I've made that mistake. I thought coaching was the only way, but there were so many other avenues. I was looking too narrow. I had tunnel vision. There were so many more options. Don't worry about the how. The how will reveal itself. You'll see the best way that works for you, because you got to find your way. What works for other people might not always be the best route for you. So you got to make sure you know what feels right to you and trust yourself. And the only way to really see that is to experiment, to try out new methods, new techniques, new strategies. And then you find one that sticks, and you do that shit again and again and again and again, because the market tells you what they want. They always do. So again, bro, give your best, release the verdict. And this is not an excuse to avoid accountability. You still evaluate what worked, what failed, and what needs to improve by releasing the attack on your identity, not the responsibility to grow. Failure can correct your strategy without being allowed to define your identity. Now we're going to do something called the fear verdict reset. Pause the video and complete these 3 statements. Number 1, name the outcome. The failure I am most afraid of is... fill in the blank. Some examples are my business failing, my content never showing, my offer being rejected, losing money, turning to my dream and being disappointed, giving everything and still not getting the result, feeling like a failure. For me, it was feeling like nothing. Name the actual fear or event clearly. Number 2, name the verdict. If that happened, I would make it mean what about me? Fill in the blank. What would it mean about you, bro? That you're not enough? That you're not talented? That you're not qualified? That you wasted your time? That you're a loser? That you're too far behind? That your dream was unrealistic? That everyone who doubted you was right? When in all reality, it's just your own doubt. That voice telling you that you're not good enough. And you thinking that self-doubt was right. And honestly, that's just a voice of an authority figure that was planted in your freaking mind as a kid. Maybe it's disappointing your parents. Maybe that's what it means. See, bro, this is where the fear gets its authority. The result doesn't control you by itself. The story you attach to the result gives it power. You have a story on repeat. What is it? And number 3, remove its authority through action. If I knew that outcome could not define me, the action I would take within the next 24 hours is fill in the blank. Maybe you got to hit publish on a video. Maybe you got to send a pitch. Maybe you got to start that business. Maybe you got to return to the project, make the call, ask for help, apply for the opportunity, take the risk, spend 1 focused hour on the work you love, restart the mission you stepped away from. Don't try to rebuild your entire life overnight. Choose one action that the afraid version of you keeps postponing. Make it uncomfortable enough to matter. Make it simple enough to complete. Take the action without demanding certainty about what comes next. You delete fear's authority every time you act without requiring the outcome to prove who you are. And last but not least, I'm going to share with you the protected potential trap. You see, sometimes people avoid fully trying because untested potential feels safer. As long as you don't completely commit, you can continue believing that you could have done it, that you just never had the right opportunity, that you would succeed if you actually truly try. And you see, when you fully try, that creates a possibility of receiving the answer you don't want. But protected potential never becomes a real life, bro. You got to go and find out who you can become, what you can do, how far you can take it. Avoiding the test protects the fantasy while sacrificing the future. Potential that is never tested eventually becomes another hiding place. It's a nice excuse to never have to take real responsibility for your life or your future. The goal isn't to guarantee that you will win every attempt. The goal is to become someone who can attempt, learn, adjust, and continue without losing themselves. You'll never see or know how successful you could have been if you don't take risks, if you don't challenge yourself, if you don't push outside the comfort zone. How many people live a mediocre life because they refuse to grow, they refuse to be uncomfortable, they refuse to live in the uncertainty? If you're watching this, you're so much more. You're meant for more. You can have more, but you need to be more. If you made it this far, thank you for watching today's video. I want to end with this. I can't promise that you will never feel fear again. I can't. I still feel it. I still have moments when I question myself, wonder whether something will work, and feel tempted to choose what feels safer. But fear no longer automatically gets to decide what I do. For almost an entire year, I was working, learning, selling, creating UGC, and pursuing different opportunities. None of those experiences were wasted. They helped me grow, sharpen my communication, develop skills I still use. It made me a better content creator. But part of me was also hiding. I was afraid to fully return to the work I knew I came here to do because Failing at my purpose felt more personal than failing at something that didn't have my entire heart. My identity wasn't attached to the other things, but it was to my purpose. And that's why it brings everything out of you when you walk this entrepreneur path, because you're facing yourself along the way. The things you don't want to look at, the shadows, the inner work becomes a must. Personal development becomes a must, and personal growth. You might even want to call it spiritual development, because you're evolving, you're growing, you're becoming more self-aware. And you're seeing your blocks. You don't always want to go into them. But if you don't heal your blocks, you'll never get out of your own way. You'll keep repeating the same loops and just running from life, running from what happened to you, running from the failures. And you will never get far if you do life that way. Stop being afraid to grow and get to your next level. Don't be like me. You're going to have to stop using movement as a substitute for alignment as well. Remember, you don't have to stop caring about the dream. You don't need to stop requiring the dream to prove that you're worthy. Give your best. Release the verdict. Learn from the result. Stop wondering if you're going to make it to that vision that you have. You are. Adjust to what needs to change and keep moving toward the work you love. Go all in. Invest what you got to invest in. Learn what you got to learn and complete the fear verdict reset. Remember, it's about naming the failure, identifying what you're afraid it would mean about you, and choosing one action within the next 24 hours that proves that story doesn't control your future. And if fear, self-doubt, or limiting beliefs have been keeping you from going all in on the work you love, download my free audio training, Limitless. Inside, you'll learn how to break through your self-imposed limitations, expand your vision, and step into the version of yourself capable of building the business, life, and future you truly want. Don't settle, bro. You can download Limitless through the link in the description down below. Subscribe and walk this journey with me. I would love to have you here. And remember, I'm still learning how to trust myself more deeply, release my own attachments to outcomes, and become the person my dream requires me to be. You don't have to wait for the fear to disappear. Delete its authority. Give your dream another honest chance, bro. And no matter what, do not give up on yourself.